Welcome to the Sandy River and Rangeley Lakes Narrow Gauge Railroad YouTube channel. We are releasing a series of videos on the history, locations, and preservation of the historic equipment that has been the ongoing mission for over 50 years now. If this interests you, the Sandy River and Rangeley Lakes Railroad is always looking for new volunteers to help keep this historic and famous railroad and its equipment running, such as train crews, selling tickets, and painting. We welcome people with metalworking, carpentry, engineering, mechanical skills, or just a pair of hands to help others. If you are from away, you can still join as a member and watch and be kept up to date online or donate to a good cause. For those who want to visit the Sandy River and Rangeley Lakes Railroad in Phillips, Maine, and enjoy a ride over a section of the former Phillips and Rangeley Railroad, visit their webpage at www.srr-rr.org for operating times and dates. The website also has an online store from which you can view and order items, from narrow gauge books to clothing. As for future endeavors, they will not be on any particular schedule, so you need to hit the subscribe button to be notified of future updates when a new video is uploaded. Welcome to the Sandy River and Rangeley Lakes YouTube channel. This will be a long format video based on the signals and semaphores at Phillips and Strong. The information was discovered over a multi-year period and will be presented not as it was discovered or figured out. All Maine Central letters in this video are from the Special Collections Department, University of Maine at Orono. I want to thank the 470 Club for 2 semaphore photos from their Melvin collection. Should you want more information on the 470 Club, you can find them on Facebook. If you do not do Facebook, you can get information at moreinfo@470rrclub.org. F&M crews operated over the Sandy River Railroad between Strong and Farmington until they merged. Sandy River operating rules were revised on January 1st, 1898, 11 days after the December 20th, 1897 collision at Farmington between a Maine Central and Sandy River locomotives, in which Sandy River engineer Barker was killed. A transcription of the 1898 rules can be found in the back of The Next Stop is Kingfield. On April 1st, 1908, new rules were issued when the P&R was consolidated under Sandy River and Rangeley Lakes ownership, which now included rules for an operational semaphore. A copy of the 1908 rules and later supplement are in the back of H.T. Crittenden's book, The Maine Scenic Route. When you compare the base rules between 1898 and 1908, they were mostly the same, with changes in expansion of the wording. A 1908 section signaled yard signals at Phillips for trains coming into Phillips is specific. Yard signals at Phillips. 1. 2 red balls by day or 2 red lights at night at masthead. Allow trains from south right-of-way into Phillips Yard. Semaphore signal governing trains from the north running into Phillips must be understood as follows. The arm horizontal or red light means stop. A arm vertical or a green light means proceed. All intermediate positions of the arm gives an imperfect signal. In case of an imperfectly displayed semaphore signal, trains must take the safe course and must not proceed until a flagman has been sent ahead in a way known to be clear. Semaphore must always be set to hold out trains while any train is occupying the main line at the station or in Phillips Yard. Otherwise, the semaphore becomes an actual source of danger. On July 15, 1916, a 2-page supplement, number 1, to the 1908 new rules were issued 9 days after the head-on collision at Strong, and semaphore rules were further expanded. Again, a further rule change after a head-on accident. Phillips Yard. All mixed and extra trains approaching Phillips Yard from the north must be under full control between True Crossing and Main Street Crossing and be able to stop within 100 feet at any time. All such trains approaching Phillips Yard from the south between Sandy River Iron Bridge and Sawyer Street Crossing must be under full control and no more speed than will enable such train to keep moving up to Sawyer Street Crossing. 2 red balls by day or 2 red lights at night at masthead allows trains from south right-of-way into Phillips Yard. Semaphore signal governing trains from the north running into Phillips Yard must be understood as follow. A arm horizontal or red light means stop. The arm vertical or a green light means proceed. All intermediate positions of arm gives an imperfect signal. In case of an imperfect displayed semaphore signal, trains must take the safe course and must not proceed until a flagman has been sent ahead in a way known to be clear. Semaphore must always be set to hold out trains while any train is occupying the main line at the station or Phillips Yard. Otherwise, the semaphore becomes an actual source of danger. Yardmaster and Phillips must see the semaphore signals for southbound trains and masthead signals for northbound trains do not conflict. A commonly used Phillips semaphore photo that is usually cropped, not showing the second station, built in 1900, then expanded in 1908. This photo's time frame is the earliest Phillips semaphore photo found to date. For those who model, with the station addition, you can see changes in what was reused through the color of the roof shingles. This photo and the next, in order to have been taken, the photographer was allowed onto the car shop roof. Both were taken the same day due to the flat car in the distance with a locomotive boiler on it. Here we can see 3 poles painted black and white as reported in 1909. 2 poles on the east side and 1 on the west. The semaphore controlling wire was not along the ground. Poles were used to string the cable controlling the semaphore arms, giving it height so trains could clear. Next to the station platform is now a raised wooden platform, which we will see in later photos. The semaphore is included in the 1915 Interstate Commerce Commission survey, which listed 1 semaphore in service for the entire system. I believe the quote single in the ICC report is a mix-up for signal. Account 27, signals and interlockers signals. Train, order, and flag, 3, ball type. 1, single, are wire connected. Looking down after May 26, 1910, from the newly built car house roof onto where the last Sandy River Railroad car house, now tore down, once stood. You can see the discoloration of the dirt showing the car house outline along with rocks on the left side of the boxcar. Assuming in the first video of the Main Street signal, why would you move it to this new location? This location allowed a greater stopping distance over Main Street, which was only first visible after coming out of the P&R covered bridge and around the rear corner of the engine house. The semaphore was also now on the engineer's side, giving a line of sight view. An April 5, 1912 Main Central letter confirming a Phillips semaphore. Remember that the Main Central had taken over the Sandy River and Rangeley Lakes in 1911 from Maxey and Lewis. Referring to your letter, 4th, relative to caring for switch and semaphore lights in Phillips Yard, the work for caring for these lights is a transportation department matter. While it might be fairly reasonable to think the sectionmen could care for these lights during the winter months, I do not see how it would be possible for them to look after these lights after spring work commences. As we will see in later records from 1918 to 1920, it was not the sectionmen who kept the semaphore lit. We will see further Main Central semaphore letters, but none will ever mention who manufactured them, as in this April 2nd, 1913 Main Central letter to F.A. Lawton, a year after the first semaphore letter and a year before the next photo. In your letter of March 31st, you mentioned probable benefits from a few semaphore signals installed. Have you any in use now, and of what type and where located? I do not remember regarding this. What points would you suggest semaphore signals, and if we could resurrect some of the old ones discarded on the Main Central? Records dated August 26, 1914. Document the demise of boxcar number 63 in Phillips, giving us a working date for this photo. The photo provides a good view of the two ball signal which controlled train movements coming from the south. Between the station and the freight house is one of the railroad's three outside braced stock cars, number 490, 491, and 492. On the shop siding, noted as the Hoyt track by Elliott Stewart in his Sunset on the Sandy River. Here is either stock car number 491 or 492 due to the notable structural differences of a known photo of number 490 taken after 1915. Here we get a view of the three black and white poles. Lost in the distance, the semaphore is hard to see. Its two white circles located among the trees over the freight house. This is the first confirmed semaphore photo by day, if not by month and year. This blow-up shows the device controlling the semaphore wire at the station. We will come back to this photo soon. A scene at Phillips Station. The ratchet lever, which will be explained in a few moments, is hidden among the baggage on the platform. What is very important here is the black and white pole, and the pulley on top of it is directing downward the semaphore wire to the ratchet lever. The ratchet lever controlled the wire tension to the semaphore. The ratchet lever is mounted on the wooden platform seen and noted in a previous photo. A quick example of how you have to be careful with what you read or see. Here on top we have a postcard made from the previous photo. Below is a colored postcard. Note the details that have been left out. By the time we get to the end of this section, you will see how a little omission like this can change the understanding of the semaphore. This photo was taken after the 1908 station edition, but prior to May 26, 1910, date of when the last car house was torn down, and shows how the control wire was connected to the ratchet lever. A further long-distance semaphore view after August 1925 due to the wooden station platform has been removed. Rail bus number 5, built in 1927, southbound at the station. In the background, over the growing trees, is the semaphore. In mid-August 1925, the wooden platform was removed and cinders placed down. When this was done, a new ground-level platform for the ratchet lever was moved a few feet north and west. A post-August 1925 view of the ratchet lever giving us a view of just how steep the angle was for the semaphore wire. The white item that looks like an inverted V in the ratchet lever photos, what was it? For this, from Bill. Once released, the lever would have gone back by weight of the signal arm and counterweight. From the photos, I couldn't see any way of limiting the movement of the lever when the signal was put back to stop. I suggest that the triangle object, which is directly behind the lever, limited movement. Without that triangular item there to limit movement, the lever would most likely have gone right down on the deck. This photo is one of the closest semaphore views found up to this point. When blown up, it shows us great details of the semaphore. This is believed to be the summer of 1935, as we will see soon. The same car lineup from the previous photo. Both photos may have been taken the same day. A second clear semaphore photo believed to be the fall of 1935. The freight house seen here was moved to this location in mid-August 1925 and is our present-day station building on Bridge Street. As we zoom in, we can see the signal lamp, which was the light source of the colored signal. The winter of 1935-36 and the semaphore has been removed. Cars are no longer on the end of the track by this time, where they moved to take down the semaphore. A view from the spring of 1936 taken by Elliot Stewart. The poles and semaphore have been removed, believed to be the spring of 1936 after scrapping of cars had started up. Up to now, we have dealt with many semaphore photos, but not a lot of information. Now, let's dive into the semaphore nuts and bolts. An earlier photo taken between 1900 and June 1903 with just the platform above the station. There is no wooden platform beside the station platform. Now back to the first photo we started this video with. Now along the station platform is a wooden platform. It was this platform and what in the beginning I called the crank. I sent Bill this photo asking, quote, "Is this what I think it is?" end quote. Bill's response: "What you see in the photo is not a crank, but a lever. I am not sure of the terminology used in your neck of the woods, but here, this type of signal lever, known as a quadrant lever. The lever we see in this photo performs the same function as we have had and still have in several locations. It's just the style that is different. I've seen locations here with up to 6 quadrant levers." Bill's reply to a follow-up lever question and what we see in this photo, since the next stop is Farmington, was released, and we are now referring to the quadrant lever as a ratchet lever, the latter being a better description. Prior we called it a ratchet lever, and from here on in it will be called a ratchet lever. In some of the following letters, quadrant levers are still used due to the fact they are older letters. Bill explaining a ratchet lever. For a ratchet lever mechanism of any kind really needs 2 pawls to make it move and the other to hold it. One pawl would have been on the lever to pull the ratchet wheel. The other pawl would have been on the hold part of the mechanism, which appears to be part of the foot-operated mechanism to allow the signal to return to stop. A pawl is a latch that only allows the wheel to rotate in one direction. As to how many clicks may have been needed to pull the signal off would depend on how hot or cold the day was, which would cause the length of the signal wire to change. While putting this video together, I asked Bill why not a tower lever at Phillips to control the wire over the ratchet lever. For this very reason is why the semaphore at Phillips had a ratchet lever to pull off the signal. That lever was different in that if when you pulled the lever as far as you could, the signal had not come off fully, the ratchet would hold the wire tight while the lever was pushed back toward the on position and then pulled again to make the signal move to the fully off position, much like a ratchet winch or tie down straps. Bill's further response: "Signal wires, in my experience, usually run through a series of pulleys mounted on short posts close to the ground. Whenever needed to change direction, to pass under the railway tracks, or to go up a signal mast, a piece of chain was spliced in where the change of direction was and around a pulley wheel about 8 to 10 inches in diameter." Bill explaining why a chain was used on levers. The chains would last a lot longer than wire when being pulled around a pulley. I asked, was this a standard gauge lever? Is there such a thing as a narrow gauge lever? Or are levers one size fits all? Bill's response: The quadrant lever, like the semaphore signal, would have been identical to those used on a standard gauge railway. The 4 Victorian railways, narrow gauge railways, all used a variety of levers and signals, the same as the broad gauge lines. As the main central most likely also supplied the signal lever to operate the semaphore, it too would have been what they were using. In the Sandy River and Rangeley Lakes Purchase Order Book, page 82 of October 30th, 1912, a requisition of 126 feet chain cable for signal post. The cable controlled the semaphore arms from the 1908 rules and the 1916 supplement. We know that a horizontal arm was used. We have pointed out the poles that carried the semaphore wire. Insight from Bill. A bit hard to tell because of the angle of the photo, but I think the middle pole was needed to support the cable high enough above the tracks to clear the trains. I have not seen or heard of a cable to operate a signal running through the air like this. Ours always ran near the ground level through pulleys on short posts and under tracks via sheaves and chains. Putting up extra poles to run the operating cable through the air is an expensive option compared to running it at ground level, but timber for poles would have been cheap and readily available in the area. The pole wire rises up from the lever to the first pole. The pole wire rises up again from the first pole to the second pole, which is taller than the first pole. The wire crosses over the tracks to the third pole, which is a similar height to the second pole. Bill on the wire crossing the track, and I asked him about other things. I have not seen a zigzag like this, but I have seen countless times where signal wires have had to swap from one side of the track to another, but that was all done at ground level using horizontal pulley wheels to change direction. As far as this kind of lever used, the zigzag makes no difference. The longer the wire is, the greater amount of expansion and contraction would be. Many quadrant levers I've seen had 2 or 3 notches that allowed the lever to be pulled as far as required to make the signal come off clearly. That achieves the same effect as a ratchet lever. In my experience, 126 feet is not a long way to pull off a signal. The Phillips signal probably could have been a simple lever, as expansion and contraction of the signal wire would not have been huge. Besides the semaphore mast, it is a great example of the 1909 article about the poles in the yard being painted black and white. And the next stop is Farmington. Identified in this photo was a wire believed to be the semaphore wire that is now known to be wrong. Bill with clarification points to this photo. From the third pole to the pole wire drops down to a lifting mechanism about 10 feet above ground level on the semaphore mast as seen in this photo. It is mounted lower than the carriage to the left. Further proof of the wire was strung from the third pole on the west side. If the pole wire had come direct from the second pole, it would have followed any train passing underneath it. This is why there had to be a third pole to get the pull over the track. Bill describing what we have seen here on the pole. Highlights of what I believe part of the drive mechanism of the Phillips Semaphore signal. Item 1. Looks like a solid lift rod to operate the arm. Item 2 appears to be a housing for a crank mechanism to transmit the movement of the signal wire up the mast. Item 3 appears to be a counterweight that restores the arm to the stop position when the lever was pulled back or the wire is broken. From the third pole to the signal mast, it would have gone down at a steep angle to connect to the mechanism. We've not really seen that, as it would have been amongst the trees in most photos. Commentary from Bill on this view. Signal arms are usually painted red on the front and white on the back. Ladders on signal masts are usually on the back of the mast, so that anyone working on the signal, i.e. refilling the kerosene lamp, would not get hit by the semaphore arm if the signal was pulled off or put back to stop. Bill with background about the April 5, 1912 Maine Central Semaphore Maintenance Letter. The kerosene lamps used here, Australia, were generally the Adelaide brand. The font in them held enough fluid for 8 days if the wick was properly trimmed. The drill was for a station assistant to refill, relight, and trim the wicks every 7 days. With so few illuminated semaphores on the SRRL, it would not have been an onerous task. Back to the 1912 semaphore letter. In October 2021, ancient house records were discovered at the present-day Sandy River and Rangeley Lakes Railroad in Phillips. The records cover various dates from 1918 to 1920 of the ancient house employees' days worked, hours, and accounting codes. These accounting codes used for our subject. 249, signal lights. 261B, spare engineer, car repairer, switch stand, switch lights. Below, listed weeks and information on signals. October 2nd to the 4th, the 9th, 1918. 3 hours each day by car repairer, switch lights. Not the same code as the upcoming signal lights entry. October 24th, 26th, 28th through the 31st, 1918. Signal lights under code 249. The only days they were not listed was on Sundays, all the time. Sunday, 10/27/1918, was the first fall daylight savings in the U.S., having been instituted earlier in 1918. The signal lights are listed in every report until the end of 1918. The car repairer who did the signals was credited with 3 hours work on it per day. April 14th, 1919. Signals were now 2 hours per day for the week. Daylight savings was March 30th, 1919. June 11th, 1919. No more signals listed this week. Last report was April 14th. September 12th, 1919. Friday, 5 hours. Switch lights. October 6th, 7th, and 8th, 1919. Switch lights. 2 hours each day. Code 216B. Week ending December 24th, 1919. Signal light 6 days. 3 hours. Code 249. March 3rd, 1920. Signal light now 2 hours. Code 249. Week ending April 7th, 1920. Signal lights 2 hours. Code 249. This is the last entry found for signal lights. So are we done? No. Remember that little description Bill gave us about the signal lamps? Well, he picked up that they were mounted backwards. In the photos, the lamps, or what look to be lamps, were on the wrong side. They should have been on the station side, illuminating northward through the colored lens for southbound moves. Furthermore, the ladder is on the wrong side of the mast to go up and fill the lanterns if on the station side. I asked Bill to write a piece that wraps this all up. There were points that were even still cloudy to me, even after dealing with the subject for some time. A semaphore signal consisting of balanced arm, 2 lamps, a counterweight, and operated by pulling a wire was mounted on top of the mast, where it could be accessed by a ladder to a small platform for the purpose of maintaining the kerosene lamps. The purpose of this semaphore signal is clearly stated in the SR and RL Supplement Number 1, Rules for Employees, in effect April 1st, 1908, Phillips Yard. It says, semaphore signal governing trains from the north running into Phillips Yard must be understood as follows. The arm horizontal or a red light means stop. The arm vertical or a green light means proceed. It also says semaphore must always be set to hold out trains while any train is occupying the main line at the station or in Phillips Yard. All photos to date show this signal at the off or proceed position, which indicates to me that this signal was only ever placed to the on or stop position when there was a train approaching Phillips from the north. One puzzling thing about this signal is that it appears to have been installed the wrong way round, as it is facing south, not north. The arm is on the south side of the mast, and the access ladder is on the north side. The two kerosene lamps are mounted on the back of the arm and swing with the motion of the arm. It seems logical that depending on whether the signal was on or off, the left or top lamp was green and the right or bottom lamp was red. In the on position, horizontal, the red lamp would be in a position where it could be seen at night through the viewing hole in the left top end of the arm, but the green lamp would be behind a solid section of the arm and not visible. In the off position, vertical, the red lamp would have been swung to be behind a solid section of the arm and not visible, but the green lamp would have been in position where it could be seen at night through the viewing hole in the right bottom end of the arm. At night, if the signal was on horizontal, a train approaching from the north would see both red and green lamps. The red lamp to the right of the mast, the green lamp to the left, which under normal circumstances would be confusing. If the signal was off vertical, a train approaching from the north would see a red lamp only, as the green lamp would be hidden by the signal mast. It is my guess that people who were actually operating the SR and RL and those who installed it had no experience with semaphore signaling. The signal was probably delivered without any clear instructions on how it should be installed. It probably looked good to the workers standing around at the station, as they could clearly see whether it was on or off, without any thought about how it would have been seen by an approaching train from the north. The train crews probably just accepted it as it was. They could see whether the signal was on or off during daytime, and at nighttime understood that one red light up at the top of the signal mast, the signal was off, and they could proceed into the station. Based on the above information, above in my reason, I believe the signal was installed facing the wrong direction. We hope you enjoyed this video on the Phillips Semaphore and the interesting aspects that have not been explored about it up until now. Our next video will be about the strong semaphore. Or was there a strong semaphore? We'll see in that video as we explore that question. Thank you for joining us. Have a good day.